Hi everyone, my name is Carol Howley and I work at a company called Exclaimer. I'm here today to discuss how I feel you can strategically build a focus on engagement and personalization. Exclaimer is an email software company and we provide businesses with a platform to support their growth, to build relationships and really showcase their brand. So I really feel that delivering personalized and relevant marketing is becoming more and more complex, yet at the same time, customer expectations are growing exponentially. Customers are so much more aware than ever of how their data is being used, presenting a huge challenge in personalizing marketing and balancing data privacy. And I think that challenge is only going to get more strong as we move into the next few years. For me, I feel that this statement from McKinsey is a really strong way of explaining that the value of personalization and getting it right or wrong is multiplying. The companies that are really, really nailing this are driving such huge amounts of value and driving enormous revenue growth. So I think this is something that, us as marketers can really relate to, and certainly I can. Today, I'd really like to explore how we as marketers can use every channel we own to support growth, how you can build long-term relationships with customers as a result of that. I'm also going to cover why I care so much about engagement and also detail some key trends that make it really challenging to deliver those individual experiences. Finally, I'm going to share 5 strategies that I feel have driven growth at the companies I've worked at, and also give you a perspective on which channels to invest in based on the stage of your business and the readiness, hopefully leaving you with a list of tactics that you can employ today. So Exclaimer, we're growing really fast. We grew 40% last year. We expanded into several new markets. We're hiring a new team. We're kicking off a rebrand. Everything is really, really busy. We're kind of doing 100 things at once. Prior to that, I was at Canonical and at Skyscanner during their hypergrowth and unicorn valuations. I mostly worked on the B2B side of marketing, and I really love joining companies as they're starting that growth period, which is such an exciting time to join. But it's also a really challenging time as there's so much happening. There's so many opportunities. There's so many opportunities that you could take, and you have to be so focused in on what's really going to drive value and ultimately revenue growth for your business, because you don't have resources to do everything you want to. So with that in mind, I'm going to be talking about a topic that's something I think a lot about, growth marketing. And when I say I think a lot about this, I really do think a lot about this. If I'm out for a run, I'm in the shower, I'm making dinner with my family, I can feel in the back of my mind, I'm like, maybe if we just tried this campaign or we tried this option. It's seriously a problem. I think my husband's getting very unimpressed with it. So for me, I want to level set firstly on what I think about growth marketing. For me, it focuses on customer relationship building and loyalty. It's got to be a long-term strategy. It can't just be a quick fix. It's got to be powered by authenticity and engagement to create that advocacy and organically grow your customer lifetime value. Ultimately, I believe you can't sustainably grow a business without focusing on your customers, and engaging those potential and current customers is one of the biggest growth levers I think is available to you as a marketer. But why is it so hard? I think it's because so much has changed in the way we do marketing, in the world, in the situation we live in. Even before COVID, advertising to and reaching customers was such a huge challenge. But with the enormous shift to online, everything has just got busier and everything is more complicated. According to Mark Zuckerberg recently, WhatsApp's now delivering over 100 billion messages every single day. Google processes 3.5 billion searches. Over 306 billion emails are sent. I mean, just take a second to imagine how much is going around the world and how much data that equates to. A few years ago, Forbes estimated that the average American sees over 10,000 advertising messages a day. The level of competition in every industry is so fierce, and customers are becoming immune to your adverts, so they hardly even notice them. But at the same time, expectations have scaled exponentially. From web to mobile and in-person interactions, customers view personalization as the default standard for engagement. It's not a nice to have anymore, it's a have to have. I'm sure so many of you have experienced this within your marketing and your customer relationships. 76% of customers expect connected journeys. They don't care that there's marketing involved, there's sales, there's customer success. They don't care about your handoffs, your issues, your team problems. They just want everything to function exactly at the time they expect it. They want instant answers. They want everything to happen at the time that they ask for it. And they don't take any kind of prisoners. They'll be fast to move to the next brand if things aren't working for them. However, at that same time, they're more aware than ever how their data is being used. A huge amount of those people expect data protection, and also 81% of those same people have taken an action in the last year to restrict the data they share. And with incoming privacy restrictions, those concerns are taking center stage, which presents all of us, I believe, with a significant challenge to deliver that level of personalization that everybody's expecting. So what can we do about it? So for me, let's get personal. Let's jump in and talk about some of the approaches that I've been using and we're using at Exclaimer and we've built into our toolkits to successfully drive growth at the companies I've worked at. I believe companies that really drive growth do it differently. They approach personalization in a different way. I think they do it as a business-wide objective to drive engagement, to put the customer at the heart of the business, to communicate always with empathy, and to focus on delivering real value. As a marketer, it's essential that we all set up cross-team working groups. We look at what is happening across all the activities in the business. We work to map our funnels, to see trends, to learn from what's working, what's not working, so that we're always improving and able to connect up experiences. Customers, for me, have to be the focus of every department and make sure that the product and also the experience lives up to the expectations and promises made. People these days see through brands that do not deliver and are so quick to turn away from bad experiences. So you can't just be measuring your NPS, but having a strategic, constant focus on this. We've been making a real conscious effort at Exclaimer recently to ask all of the customers to give us feedback so that we can learn and improve continuously. We've also seen a really great response on sites such as G2 and review areas, where people are actually really engaging and telling us what they think and also giving us some great reviews. It's a work in progress for us, but something we're seeing some strong returns from at the early stages. Next point. Lean into data and analytics to make sure that you can really identify the opportunities available to you. Now, I know talking about data in marketing is something that you've heard a million times already, and I'm definitely myself on the data-informed side of the fence, not data-led. But I believe right now, prioritizing investments in data and insights within marketing is critical to making your business nimble and resilient in face of change. As we saw earlier, people's expectations are high. The power's in the hand of the consumers, and data privacy in that focus has completely shifted. It's now more important than ever to update those strategies so you continue to share relevant ads and measure your campaign successes. I don't know if anyone else has been following Scott Brinker's State of MarTech maps over the years, then you know just how many data sources most businesses have in sales and marketing. I look across our tech stack and other businesses I've worked in, there's 10,000 opportunities on here that you could be using. So it's no mean feat in making sense of all of that. At Canonical, we were able to get really clever with this with our growth engineering team, who are powering insights and decision-making in real time. We pulled together multiple marketing information sources, multiple services such as ZoomInfo, Cogniz, and Bombora, and built our own account-based measurement of interest so that we were able to power our SDR outreach and all of our account-based activities with real up-to-date interest. People who are on our site really kind of get targeted. It was an incredible thing to do. And in summary, it's also essential to work towards connecting all that data up so that you can get a really strong 360 customer view. The ability to measure ROI, to optimize your campaigns and use predictive models is a real key to unlocking the power of data. Performance marketing. Now, at Exclaimer, we're a scale-up. Performance marketing is hugely important for us. We're B2B, so we obviously skew more to Google, to LinkedIn, to Twitter, but also other social media options, advertising, content syndication, and so on. You need to look at testing, learning, measure, optimize constantly. We're constantly looking at how we can do the best uses of intent. What can we do in retargeting? How can we start to do different things that are showing really good returns for us? I consider performance marketing as a number of channels, and it has to span more than just digital acquisition as you traditionally expect. For us, earned media is really important. We've been doing an awful lot of work to look at how we can get stories placed in the right media, where we can be doing that, how we can leverage trust. So as I mentioned before, review sites has become a big focus for us, and we've been really working hard with our G2, Capterra, and other areas. They're a huge driver for us of referrals and inquiries. So a huge mix of tactics, but the important thing is that it's got to be the right tactics for your brand, your stage, the readiness of your company, what you're really doing. So you have to really make it work for you based on what that is. Next point. So building a content engine, this is something that I've seen amazing results for and is hugely important for driving business success. I remember probably about 2-3 years ago watching a State of Demand Gen video episode from Chris Walker, who works at Refine Labs, and you may well have heard of him. He was going through how fundamental content teams and content strategy was to business growth. And I remember thinking, yes, this is exactly what I'm trying to do. And if you haven't watched it, I do highly recommend his podcast. So he's a huge advocate of demand gen, really famously scaled his business through LinkedIn content. And in this video, which I borrowed from an interview he did at Typeform, he really shares how important that content is for him. Let's see if this video works.
I'm not thinking about any individual post about how it drove a lead. Like that's right. It's not part of my thought process when I post something. And so, I think that's why I'm able to be generous, why I'm able to, write things that help people, why I invest in engaging and spending a lot of my time doing that. And so I don't think about it in that way. I think about it as a collection. I know that CMOs that come and work for us watch hundreds of my videos before they ever want to talk to me. I know that the people that listen to the podcast also look at my LinkedIn videos. And I know that the LinkedIn videos get people into the podcast. And so they're working together. I know that some people like our YouTube show. It doesn't matter to me where they consume. I'm just putting out information consistently in places where they look. I think the take home is no one touch point matters in a brand marketing move. It's the collection of all of them.
So as Chris says, it's about every element of content and consistency in that brand messaging. Eventually, performance marketing does plateau, and the opportunity for all businesses, in my mind, lies in building a strong brand, building a strong content strategy, and having a clear point of view so you're able to add value to your audiences. Great content really adds value for the people because it educates, inspires, and helps them solve problems. At Exclaimer, I'm really looking at moving our approach to a demand generation play based on a really strong content engine that we're going to hopefully use to leverage our brands, staff, community, and customer stories. Ones that brings out our personality and makes it a real human interaction. It's certainly a work in progress for us, but something that I'm really passionate about us building. So final point, make sure you diversify your channels early and as soon as you can so you don't become dependent on just one. This is a hugely important point to make. Often when you get really, really busy, you see something's working and you just keep going, you end up in a bit of a hamster wheel where you're constantly focusing on one or two areas. It's especially important when you look at what's going on right now in advertising with GDPR, with privacy, with the shift online that we were talking about, where people have these huge expectations. You need to kind of layer everything together to make sure it complements and works together. As I mentioned as well, eventually performance marketing does plateau, so you need to invest in building your brand and the other channels so you can deal with this. In my opinion, great brands are consistent, recognizable, and have a really clear point of view. Now, at Exclaimer, we're hugely fortunate to be part of Insight Ventures' investment portfolio, and that means we get to work with them on research, have access to some of the tools and a lot of the trainings that they offer. Recently, their Marketing Center of Excellence ran a huge state of demand generation survey where they really digged into how businesses could be prioritizing investments, their data readiness, their growth models, and also looked at channel prioritization frameworks for business stages. I'm really pleased to be able to share with you a slide from that today and that they've allowed me to share. So what we're looking at here is your mix of channels. And if you look on the left-hand side, you can see with the channels, we've got SEO content, paid digital, email, and events. We see these as mature tactics. So over 75% of the companies that we worked with and surveys have established programs in these, or they're ramping investment. That means that realistically, these are your table stakes channels. These are the ones that you should be investing in and that your company should be investing and competent at. If you start to look slightly more to the right, you're looking along in-person, outbound, ABX. These areas show 50% adoption, but very few have established programs. So a majority of companies have not yet adopted these but are planning to test these tactics. So it shows that that's really where your next situation and your next kind of focus should be. Analyst relations and peer reviews. They're also showing 50% adoption, but very low maturity. So people who are doing these are not doing them well. For us, that's definitely an area that we're looking at. Peer reviews, I think, is a real missed opportunity, and 27% are not planning on even testing in that of the people surveyed. But if you can really start standing up a peer review network, the add-on of kind of other networks and other elements of trust is an enormous multiplier for your business. Referrals, community, direct mail, and podcasts really show low adoption currently, with less than 30% kind of having established programs, but super high interest from the people surveys. So I feel these are the channels that we really need to be testing and learning in going forward. Finally, if you look over to the right, it's really interesting to see that traditional ads, out of home and email lists are not really being seen as having strong adoption, and they also have low interest across respondents. It could be because within our portfolio, we've probably got more of a B2B SaaS leaning, I suppose, within our companies. But it's an interesting area. If that's a relevant, potential option for you, it could be an area to look at if there's not a lot of competition within that area. So hopefully that gives you a really good view from our experience and from the companies we work with of what people consider to be really strong table stakes, definite have to do, and also where some opportunities could be for your business. And on that note, just a final point. Obviously, yeah, Exclaimer, we're a scale-up, but we were a startup and we never lost our focus on optimizing for growth. I always ensure my team use every opportunity we can leverage to grow, to add value, to constantly evaluate how every channel works for us. I'm a huge advocate of own channel opportunities, which are often overlooked in terms of the big opportunities of paid and even earned we've discussed earlier. I think there's a huge untapped opportunity in every business, in every element of communication, whether it's clients, customers, recommendations, your own staff. And I don't just mean leveraging the enormous multiplier effect that comes from your staff members building their own influencer status and really being active on LinkedIn and social channels, but the opportunity you could leverage from every email you send, every interaction you have, everyone that you speak to. Of course, I'm talking about email signatures, and coming from Exclaimer, I couldn't resist putting a slide in quickly, but I see a huge amount of opportunity for the businesses we work with, and also for ourselves in looking at the analytics, making sure that we're really optimizing our customer success, providing great on-brand signatures. IT compliance is obviously a really strong tick box for everyone, and really being able to power our advertising campaigns through every element of communication that we sell. I want to thank you very much for taking some time to listen to me today, and I hope that I've left you with a few things that you can take away to use in your business. So to summarize my strategies, you need to put the customer at the heart of the business. It has to be a committed to strategy that you really buy into across the whole business. Leveraging data and analytics, fundamentally important. Make sure you scale the right performance marketing for your business, for your strategy, for your scale, for where you are in the market. Build a content engine to support that and to strengthen your brand. Finally, diversify your channel mix to drive growth, and never miss an opportunity to speak to your customers and to support your brand. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope everyone enjoyed listening to me today. And I think I can answer any questions. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Carol. I do see a few questions in the Q&A, so I will go ahead and read those off. So the first one you have is, you mentioned using the right tactics for your brand and stage. What tactics have been most successful for building your brand and stage?
So in terms of building your brand, I think really for us, you kind of look at, my first hires are almost always product marketing and performance marketing. So it's a very strong area. You need to make sure you get your messaging right, you know who you're talking to, you understand your brand, your ability to market. And then you always look to kind of performance marketing. It's a great way to scale, and also content marketing for me. So they're kind of like, I guess, the first things that we look to.
Thank you. Next question is, if everyone starts offering personalized experiences, is there a risk that consumers will feel bombarded by too much personal messaging?
So I guess that's always a risk. I think we're probably already there in a sense. When you look at kind of your Netflix, you look at Amazon, you look at everything that the B2C companies have really driven already. You know, I know that if I turn on my Amazon, I know that they're going to be suggesting something that I've probably looked at or is relevant. I know that if I turn on my computer, I'm going to see something that I've probably browsed on my phone, because everything's connected. But I think people expect that. They don't have the time anymore. It feels like everything's sped up. Like if you're not there and you're not relevant, someone immediately says, oh, they don't understand me, or they don't know what I'm talking about. So I almost feel like we are saturated maybe, but I think if you don't do it, it's such a huge element of people being so fast to decide and be like, no, they don't understand me. They're not relevant. I'm not interested. So I think you have to just invest in it.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, next question. In a world of constant proliferation of digital channels, how do you best create relationships and engage with customers and partners? Are there some channels you think have proven ineffective?
So I think the best way to engage is to really understand your audiences and really understand your customers. So we always like to make sure that we're speaking to people all the time, that we're getting feedback, we're asking people what's working, what isn't. We're really kind of understanding, you know, what they want from us, what value we can add and how we can help them, so that everything that we do is then very much targeted to that adding value, to really speaking to the customers and to answering their pain points and problems. And I think that's got to be a fundamental way of approaching things. And I've forgotten the second half of the question, sorry.
The second question, second part is, are there some channels you think have proven ineffective?
I don't know if I've found anything to be ineffective. I think the problem is when you don't use multiple channels, you can rely on your performance marketing, but eventually you get to the point where you've kind of iterated and you've refined and you've got to a point where you're able to sort of really drive amazing results, but you can't always keep doing that. It doesn't become exponential. It starts to plateau. You can really look at your content marketing, but you've got to plan all your dissemination really effectively to be hitting the right people at the right time with relevant messages. So I think kind of like in the video, it's that layering of all the different areas and making sure you're present in the places that people are searching for you and they want to see your brand.
Thank you. The next question is, what do you think should be offered to the customer to be at least reading and interacting on your email in limited time per daily email one has?
Do you think they're asking what we should put in a signature, or the very least put in a signature maybe?
Yeah, I think yes.
I think obviously the most basic information is sort of your name and address and contact details. What I think is really nice is if, you think of what the purpose is, and a lot of salespeople will be sending emails around kind of, organizing demos or bookings or wanting to showcase a webinar, for example. So if you maybe just put one message really strong that's the most relevant to that team, customer success, I think it's a great opportunity to really share, trainings or, webinars, or even just have a, book a call with me so I can help you, or, here's a link to the Zendesk. So I think you could just pick one really, really strong, relevant message or piece of content and make sure that it works for that person to send.
Thank you for that. What are the most important skills that a marketer needs to have in this space?
I guess I'm talking sort of in general in B2B and tech, but I think, it's really important. I think when I was at Skyscanner, one of the things we really invested in that came about as a number of courses like Reforge and things were being run is that you should really look for a T-shaped marketer. So we looked for people that have a broad range of skills, that have experience in different areas, but probably an in-depth in one or two areas. So we're always looking for someone who wants to work in demand gen, we're probably looking for sort of performance marketing and an element of content or campaigns and email. So you're kind of looking for people who can do multiple things, but also have an awareness across the business so they can start to bring things in and leverage other channels. So I think that's really important. And then probably just a growth mindset. I think everything in marketing changes every 5 minutes. And I think 6 months ago, you were saying something different to what we're saying now. There's new tools, there's new exciting tactics, something else has happened or changed, or, Google's changed an algorithm and we're all scrabbling to work out how it works. So you just have to be really, really open to change and have a growth mindset. Because I think, everyone's constantly jumping online. You're like, how do I do that? And how do I learn that? And if you're not keen to kind of do that and grow all the time, then I think it's a real challenge for marketers.
Yes, definitely. Growth is definitely important. How do you balance measuring engagement metrics versus measuring MQLs, SQLs, and etc.?
Oh, it's the best question ever. It's such a challenge. I think there's such a balance. Like, you can attribute and you can measure and you can do it almost to the nth degree, but then you're not necessarily looking at where are people actually sharing, where are people actually coming from. We've got multiple methods. We can look at last touch, first touch, we can look at multi-touch. We can see a different picture from everything. No one's necessarily right or wrong. I think we as a company, I like to aim for kind of the end result of revenue, and you can work back and sort of see how it is. An MQL is nothing if it's not a good MQL, and SQL doesn't matter if it doesn't end up becoming a closed-won business. But I think once you've got kind of your metrics in place and you can really look at them, then you need to start actually asking, because where did you hear about us? Because that's almost like the extra level of attribution that then you'll never know. They might say, oh, I saw a video on social, or someone recommended you, or I saw a really cool video where someone on your team was talking about that and it stuck in my mind. And, all this kind of, I saw you 2 years ago at an event and it just reminded me recently because I saw an ad. Like, there's so many things that actually happen that you never really know through attribution. So I think, you measure as much as possible and try your hardest to be as clever as possible and to use as many data sources. But ultimately, I think you can't measure everything. So it's kind of a try as hard as you can and map everything as much as you can, and then allow for kind of life to happen and sort of ask people about how they found you.